Hello, hello. Okay. Let's bow our heads. Father in heaven, thank you for this Sabbath and for the opportunity to gather and reflect. Thank
Amen.
you for the opportunity that we had to travel to the other side of the world to minister and share the gospel. Thank you for the blessings that we received, and hopefully we were a blessing to them as well. And I pray that you would be with each person that we left behind there, that you would grow them in their walk with you and help them to share with others. In Jesus' name, amen.
Maybe you wonder how 3 people from Little Newport Church joined with Adventist World Radio 360 to do this program. The only thing I can say is it must have been God. I guess it was Tim Saxton that suggested me to do a children's program. I knew him a little bit here, but I know it was God that impressed Lauren to come. Jill and I could not have made it without him. He was such a blessing to us. I guess I'm ready for the first slide. This was where we were sent off from this church here in Newport, where we were prayed over, where we were sent by your blessings. And God was with us the whole time. Go on to the next one. I think this was in the airport here in Spokane. I know, wherever it was the first time that I embarrassed Lauren. I'll tell you the story.
First of May.
I have never been shy. Have I? No. And Lauren isn't really outgoing. And we went to the airport in Spokane, and we were getting ready to fly to San Francisco. And as I looked around, here was a man in pilot's dress. And I went up to him and I says, "Where are you flying to?" And he looked at me, and I guess he said San Francisco. And this was fine. We talked for a little bit, and I didn't know this, but on the sly, Lauren got his picture, but I don't have it. He says, "Nobody's ever asked me where I was flying to." But he said he was going to Tokyo. Guess where we were headed? Tokyo. He literally flew our plane from San Francisco to Tokyo. And Lauren, what were you telling me? When did he wave goodbye to us? As we left. Well, as we left the Tokyo airport, he had landed, was there waiting.
Oh, yeah.
We spoke to him. And it was really neat to have that bond, or whatever it might be. So poor Lauren, we got him out of his comfort zone just very, very, very early. I don't think, and Jennifer is so quiet. I don't know what your girls are like, Jennifer. But I really did feel sorry for him. And and another episode, and don't move the slides. Jill and I were in the elevator, one of our first mornings down. And I looked at this man that was sitting in front of me, and his tag was showing in back. And I said, "Oh, your tag's showing." And he went to me, we found out he had his shirt on backwards or inside out or something. And so here he is getting ready to leave the elevator, taking his shirt off. Lauren wasn't with us that time, and I'm so happy he wasn't. He might not have made it. Okay, you can flip it. Okay, this was on the plane to Tokyo, where that pilot was flying for us. And this is landing in the Tokyo airport. We had about a 7 or 8 hour stopover in 9 in Tokyo. And we were going to get off and go in and see Tokyo. Jill went up and spoke to somebody from the airlines, and they said, "Don't you do it. You will not make it back in time when you have to go through customs and everything over again. So we had 9 hours there. That was at the beginning of the 9 hours. Flip.
Well, the other thing is there was a typhoon that was coming into Japan, south of Tokyo, but they were saying everybody was trying to get to different locations, and with the traffic, they just didn't advise anybody leaving the airport other than on the plane.
So this was at the beginning of the 9 hours, and this was during the middle of it, and guess who wasn't sleeping and who were? Go ahead. The colors there at night. This was getting ready to come into Kuching, we think.
But I need to share a story that happened in Tokyo.
Go ahead.
So let's back it up to before we were getting ready to go, I was thinking about what would I need on the trip. And don't ask me why, but iPhone AirTags came to my mind. And I thought, why do I need AirTags? Well, the Lord figured out a way for me to get 8 AirTags, even though I only needed 6, for less than the price of getting 6. And we stuck these AirTags in our luggage. And every time we would land, I would check my phone, which wasn't supposed to work with the AirTags, but it did. And I'd find out where our luggage was. When we got on the plane in Tokyo, I looked at my phone, and I discovered that 4 of our bags were with us, and 4 of our bags were on the other side of the airport at United, and we were on All Nippon at this point. And this lovely Jamaican flight attendant came by, and she said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Well, I'm doing fine, but I'd be doing a whole lot better if I knew that the remaining 4 bags of mine that are on the other side of the airport had made it to the plane." And she said, "Oh, I'll be right back." And up to the pilot she went. A few minutes later, because the pilot's been announcing, get ready, we're going to shut the door. The pilot says, we've got a little delay here. I don't think it's going to take too long, but everybody just sit tight. About 10 minutes go by, and he finally announces, "Okay, we're shutting the doors now. We're just about finished with what we needed." We discovered there were about 50 bags that had not made it on this flight, and we were trying to locate them and get them on board. And looked at my phone, and all of mine were now on the plane. So if God hadn't impressed me to buy the AirTags, our luggage would probably have made it to Tokyo, and then we would have had a tough time getting it from there to where we were going to Kuching, because there was several plane changes in between. So that was a miracle God gave us by invention of our iPhone AirTags.
And talk about the luggage. We would not have made it without Lauren. Not only did he take some of our supplies, but he carried them through airports and everything. And this one, maybe I should say later, but I'm pretty short. I had back surgery, and I lost 3 inches. And they're big. And they're both way younger than I am. And it was hard for me to keep up with them, even pulling the suitcase or having Lauren take it for me. It was hard for me to keep up with them. And I was a burden for a few minutes, and I felt bad. But I later found out that I was a real asset to them. Was it first in Kuala Lumpur? In Kuala Lumpur. These airports are spread out all over the place. And we decided I needed a wheelchair. Now, don't ever forget this, people. As you get older, if you're flying, you need a wheelchair. Because especially if one of their people takes you. So here I am sitting in the wheelchair, and would you call it one of their attendants?
A porter or something.
Porters would be pushing me. And they knew just where they were going. And we were zipping around, and Lauren and Jill were following. They didn't complain about me being old and decrepit after that. They were happy that I was all right.
We didn't complain before.
Oh, no. You didn't. See, he's changed.
And these were 50 to 70 pound pieces of luggage, because they had supplies. You'll probably talk about that later.
Oh, I should stop here. Our supplies, in a minute you'll see them. But now's as good a time as later. Thank you, church, for buying those supplies for us.
Yes.
There's a lady, and I'll talk about this in a minute, that could have done what I did, but they wouldn't have had the supplies, and we would have been really short on supplies if we had had to pay for them ourselves. But the church came up with the money and paid for all the supplies we needed. Okay, let's get us.
We did have 6 large suitcases, and each of us had a carry-on bag or backpack as well as a personal item. So imagine that much luggage traveling.
Flip again. This is the supplies. This is the hotel that we were in. And I have them lined up there on the bottom, on the floor, first day, second day, third day, each of the crafts that we would be using on those days. The pencils, the colored pencils, the crayons, the markers, glue, everything else is on the top there. And we did have to buy some things while we were there. So this is what we had. This was our group. First, it's myself, and then Pastor Andrew. He was the ministerial assistant, associate, or whatever, for the mission. It was not called a conference, it was a mission. And then Mike Lambert, and Mike was the one that stayed with us in Kuching and had the meetings. And Lauren went to...
Tebadu, near Syrian.
Which was out quite a ways, and we didn't see him for about 5 or 6 days. Okay? It was a luxury hotel. When we first decided to go, you know, I'm 84. I was brought up in the era when they talked about the headhunters in Borneo. And I'm thinking, primitive. And we get there, and when we're in this hotel that is 20 stories high, beautiful place, attached to a mall, a 3-story mall. We didn't even have to go outside to spend our money. We could go downstairs for supper at
Kentucky Fried Chicken and Pizza Hut.
or any other place we decided to go. So that was the big thing, that it was a cultural shock for me when I'm expecting primitive, and here it is so civilized. And as we get to the children part, we'll talk about that.
The place where I was more primitive. I was an hour and a half or 2 out towards the jungle from where they were. But I did stay in a hotel in a city that was okay for the week that I was out there. But we drove from there every evening, 45 minutes to where I did the presentations. And that was out in the jungle with just tiny churches and homes, I guess you would call them, that reminded me of Tijuana, Mexico, just falling down, a lot of poverty where I was.
So if I had gone with you, I'd have seen my primitive.
And I do want to clarify, the Kentucky Fried Chicken, we went for the mashed potatoes. We had a lot of rice there, so every once in a while we just had that hankering for the mashed potatoes.
Okay. This is looking out the hotel window at an apartment complex across the way from us. Their air conditioning system there. The first day, they took us around to see everything and everybody that was Seventh-day Adventist related. Like I said, they don't call it a conference office, it was a mission office. And we went, almost everybody in that building, didn't we?
Anybody was there,
I think the next slide or two will show you the pictures of the people. Oh, all right, let's stop here. This is Madame Yvonne with Jill and myself. That's how I was introduced to her. I wrote to ask some questions. I introduced myself, and I guess I shouldn't have gone overboard. And this lady was as qualified as I was, maybe more so, to have done what I did. And I'm sure she was somewhat insulted that she was not asked to do it. But there wasn't one thing that I desired to do, to see, or that I needed that she didn't take care of for me. It gives me chills. She was always there for us. They took us every place, and they did it joyfully. Tim Saxton, when I said, Tim, I'll need tables. Kids don't do very well on crafts on the floor or on chairs. He says, well, Judy, you might have 4. Do you think we had more than 25? She kept getting them. She knew everybody around there, all of the churches, and when we needed anything, we had it. Bless her heart. Our friend Yvonne. That's the other people there in the mission office. The one in the middle, that's the president, and it's blurry. But his simile. And Jill became very good friends with his wife, Hilda. Okay. The first day, we wanted to go out to the school that we thought, Lauren, take over.
Well, I have slides later in my presentation. Can I talk about it then?
Why we wanted to go there.
All right. Well, I can do it now. So my grandpa wrote a book about the history of Munson missionaries overseas, mostly in this part of the country. And in there, we had read that my great-grandpa had been a part of starting a school in Sarawak, which is the state that we were going to. I didn't find out till we got back that there was 2 schools there, and it was the other one that he had helped work on. But when we got there, we thought that this was the one that my great-grandpa had helped to start in the 30s.
So this is the kindergarten area. There's all their little shoes and their cubbies. And then next to the children's there, that one little boy wasn't quite sure about us. Lauren contemplating school. Teachers there, and the school goes from kindergarten clear through high school. Now, have you ever seen an ice cream sandwich? Look at that. That is actually an ice cream sandwich. You see the piece of bread wrapped around it and the ice cream in the middle. The school had a little shop type area where they sold ice cream, and it was very famous. People came from the whole state in Sarawak there to get ice cream from time to time, and it was good. It was really good. But that's the first time I've ever really seen an ice cream sandwich.
And that's how they advertise it on the board as well. It looks like a picture like that, and that's how it comes.
Okay, we wanted to go out to the jungle. Matter of fact, I don't know about Lauren, but Jill and I took malaria pills in case we met up with mosquitoes out in the jungle. And then I was told, no, Judy, you're not going to be able to go out into the jungle. But this is one of the things that Yvonne arranged for us a minute ago, the wildlife center that was very much jungleized. This is our friend George. Come on.
George of the Jungle.
Yeah. We got there a little bit late, and we were starting to walk up, and it was a hill, and we would have had to go quite a ways. And I said, I can't do that. So out of nowhere, this tram comes and picks us up. And there were people that had been waiting to see the animals the orangutans come in and get fed. There had been people waiting for almost an hour. We got there at the very end, and there we saw him. And do you want to tell them what happened?
Don't
Put your fingers in your ears. This won't embarrass you.
Don't ever follow an orangutan too closely, because there were some people that, as he was trying to leave and leave all the populated areas, these people were following him along the path. and he wasn't liking it very much. And he stopped in a tree, and they walked underneath and were trying to take pictures, and he decided that was the best time to go to the bathroom.
I heard someone say they don't call it a rainforest for nothing.
So we got to see him. They thought another one might come in, but he never did. And why they had so few coming in was because it was the fruit season there. And the orangutans could get all they needed to eat on their own. They didn't have to come in for the special feeding. But we enjoyed George. And did Jill and I wear these? No, we really didn't, but we took them, so we thought we might as well have our pictures made with them. This was, I think, one of the best, if not the best meals we had there.
Like the bananas, the best.
But meal.
Everything, all the meals were fabulous, but this one was not my favorite. That one's coming up.
Okay. Who's flipping you? Okay, the next thing that they did was cultural, was they took us to this cultural center. We saw the dances. Keep going. Okay, stop. We saw the dances and all. And then they took us out to see their tribal homes. And this was on the way to tribal homes. And if you think I'm going to try that when I fall, getting up on the platform here, you're wrong. I was standing on the solid ground taking pictures while Jill and Lauren and Mike walked across to get there. This is one of the tribal homes. Very sparsely furnished. And for all, I can't figure out why, but they have a tour type of thing that they rent it out and people can come and stay in them. Did you notice that, guys? That people can rent them to stay overnight in these places. And Mike, he was a good sport. This is a blowgun, and you'll notice it says 2 RMs. An RM, if it was 2 RMs, or even if it was 20, you would divide, that's their currency. If you divide it by 4, so he spent about
50 cents.
50 cents or so. And he got it, his second try, he got it. And Mike didn't get one even though he used it, but Yvonne got one for me and for Lauren, the blow darts things. I didn't bring it with me tonight though. The picture that was on the bulletin this morning for church, this was one of the flowers that we saw, and I thought it was so beautiful.
I'm not sure what's next. Do I tell my headhunter stories now?
Well, flip it.
No. Yes.
No.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to tell the headhunter stories here when we're talking about the cultural center, because while we were there, we got taxied all over by everybody. They'd tell us, be in the lobby at 5. Well, who's picking us up? I don't know, just be there. So we'd go down to the lobby at 5 and someone would pick us up. And we'd get to talk with them and hear their stories. And 3 of our co-workers / interpreters / taxi drivers from the mission all had relatives, grandparents who were headhunters. And I said, well, how did you become Adventists? How did your family become Adventists if your grandfathers were headhunters? I mean, how does a missionary survive long enough to tell you the message? So one of them, they said the missionary came in and made friends in the area that was populated fairly well by non-headhunters and just kept pushing his way inwards into areas where the headhunters were. But headhunters don't kill their friends. So you just make friends along the way and go slowly. That was one. Another one, their family member was really, really sick, and they went to, I don't know what they call them, I call them witch doctors, but they went to their local medicine man, and the medicine man couldn't heal their family member. And they heard this missionary had some type of something that they could maybe make them well. So they went to see the missionary. The missionary said, well, I can't make you well, but I can pray for you. They prayed for them. The family member got well, and the family decided if that that prayer, that God was powerful enough to heal them, they needed to pay attention. So they came into the church through the health message and prayer. And the third one, their family grew rice. That's how they made their living. But everybody in the area was having such a problem with the rodents eating the rice. And their profits were just so little, they were having a hard time making ends meet. And so this missionary came to him and he said, I'll pray for your field on one condition. When you take in your harvest, whatever you harvest more than you harvested last year, you need to tithe and give 10% to the church. And the church will help give that to the poor people. And I will be happy to pray for your fields. And everybody laughed, except this one guy said, well, what do I have to lose? And so the missionary came out and prayed. And that year, that farmer had a bumper crop, and everybody else still had the rodent problem. They paid their tithe, just like they said they would, and they decided they would come into the church. So that was 3 families that had been headhunter families that came into the church and how they came in.
And how this headhunter thing works, they tie a person to a pole, and they start stripping the skin and all off. So my childhood recollections would have been very primitive. Next. This was one thing that Yvonne and I disagreed on. I've worked with kids, and I know how they love to stand up in front and hold signs. And I also knew that if people were going through my things and saw Jesus, 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 which a lot of our songs are like, it would be a problem and they might take them from me. So I had 30 songs, and I had to get them all lined up on the tag board and printed. And so it took me several days and nights to work on that. That was my working, and Jill. Oh, I guess I skipped something. This was Mike and Lauren talking before he left. This was the hall I had. It was upstairs. Oh, the name of the building where we were in was Ecumenical. Something. Is it on anything we have? Ecumenical churches of the area. And we're going, oh, it was a lovely building. I don't know how much the downstairs attendance went up to. Did Mike ever say anything about how many he had?
I think averaging 700 per night.
Our first night, we had 95 kids. It went up and down. The lowest was either 83 or 89. The last Friday evening, they told us to expect 200. We didn't get that. We had 135. And Sabbath, they said you could have as many as 300. And this is children. This is not counting parents and adults that were helpers and everything. We had 197. And that's a big group to work with. Here's some of the first tables that we had. And, you'll notice we have strange-looking sashes, scarves on. They all say Sarawak Mission. So it came from the mission, not Adventist World Radio. The shirts came from Adventist World Radio. We didn't know we were going to get those. And mine, if you're close enough, who was I? Yeah? I hear somebody. Grandma Judy. And Jill was Auntie Jill. And sometimes they'd just say, Grandma? And of course I answered. And this is the mission president that presented them to us before we even started the meetings. It was the first night of the meetings. They introduced us and presented these. Oh, there it says Christian Ecumenical Worship Center. So that's where we were.
Lauren had already left for his site. That's why you don't see him in those.
First night, registration and putting name tags on them. So, wait, a lot of you women have helped with Vacation Bible School. And when the kids get there, do you get them all at once? Do they all get there your first day at once and come in and there's a big mob? No, they sort of dwindle in. These kids, they were downstairs with the parents, and then when they finished introducing us all, they sent us upstairs. So everybody, and I said there was 95, come up at the same time, and trying to get them enrolled and their name tags on them. It was a job, and I stayed out of it. I stayed up in front and let my helpers in the back. Jill was in charge in the back. I was in charge in the front. Okay. Now, how do I know what night this was? Because of the craft. And it was Margarita's family that did the younger kids' nativity scene, and it was your boys, Dexter and Healing, wasn't it? Healing, didn't you do the first night craft? You don't remember. Okay, but that's how I remember the craft. That was the first night. That was the older kids. And here are some of the little ones showing theirs off. And this was the Sabbath. This church is where they speak English. Obviously, it's the one we chose to go to. And it's right on the campus where the school was that Lauren was talking about. And the lady behind me is Hilda, the president of the Union's Mission, and the other one is Pastor Andrew's wife. This was yours, Lauren.
This was the building that I did my meetings in. It was a circular community hall. This was one of the early nights. They told me there was about 300 people per night on average. So that was one of the earlier nights there.
Back to working on crafts. So we had fun in the daytime. We worked at night. Sometimes we were up to 12 and 1 o'clock at night working on things because we had all their coloring sheets and we had to try to keep them together. Each child needed to have their whole set when they left. So we would have them spread out all over the beds in the hotel room, and we would be getting them in order for the next day. Now, this was the second day, and the craft that day was Jesus' baptism. And it was a cute little craft because Jesus is in a popsicle stick, and it has a backing to it and a front, and you can actually slide him down to immerse him. So we enjoyed that one. That day we talked about the baptism, the temptations, and I guess that was it that day. I can't see what they have there. Okay, here's the girls sorting out things that they would be working on.
So with me are Franny, who is Yvonne's daughter, and Zarin, who works at the mission.
This is one night's helpers. And that's another thing Yvonne did. She not only had helpers there for us every night, but she had to have the greeters for the adult place downstairs. So we had 15 to 20 people up there with us every night helping us. That's not counting parents. Again, their papers. Some of the helpers. Keep going.
That's name tags.
Oh, we went to the cat museum. Kuching is what in Malaysian? Say it louder. Cat. It is the name for cat, Kuching. And so they have a museum there, and this was Jill wanted to go to the museum. So the top left cat is myself. The one down from me is Yvonne's son, Danielson. The one in the bottom is Jill, and bless his heart, poor Mike we talked him into being a cat that day, so he's up there with his face showing through. A Chinese
Temple.
temple in town.
That's a government building. Just pretty architecture. Whoop. Okay.
Yvonne also translated for me. And I think Lauren will sympathize with me this way. You say what you think might be a paragraph. How long does it take a translator to say one paragraph?
I had a good translator and a not so good translator.
But
One of them, I felt he was accurately representing what I was saying. The other one preached a whole sermon after each sentence.
yeah. This was the night that we worked on the disciples.
More helpers.
This is a different night now. These are different people from the ones you just saw. And Tim came with Adventist World Radio. They were with us for, maybe 2 half days. See, this is the age span that I was working with, from babies to grandmas. I had said, I want them between 4 and 12. Ha, 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 Judy. You don't always get what you want. Beautiful children. I don't think I had to stop my programs. We had them 8 nights and 2 Sabbaths. I don't think I had to stop them maybe more than 2 times during that and say, shh, I need it quiet. You just didn't have to do that. They were very well behaved. These are the little guys. Another group of helpers. And this was everybody, I guess. And Jill and I had the knack of standing out. This was the day Jill wore a white skirt.
They didn't tell me where they were.
No, they don't tell you they're going to take pictures. And then there's a time when I wore a white blouse and was the only person with all the ministers and everything. That's all right. We love them. Tim Saxton and Mike Lambert. This was the day that kids worked on the paralytic. Had several new crafts that I've never used before. Oh, and so what did we do with the music? We did them both. We had kids come up in front and hold the posters, and Yvonne had a PowerPoint and had them shining on the wall so the kids could use either one they wanted to.
It's another group. It's such great helpers.
This was one of the gentlemen from Adventist World Radio. I think there were 3, Tim being one of them. And we were trying to figure out how we could keep the pages that we were coloring. I had them all hole punched when we left. But we decided to buy those little rings. And I think they made sure they all would not open, so you had to buy more. I didn't even try. Jill tried and did several, but she took some, and this man got this one for us.
All the ones I couldn't get, I took them downstairs and said, okay, somebody with more muscles, can you try it?
And this was us with Mike and the men from Adventist World Radio. And I'm quite sure I met the man on the right earlier. I think I met him when I was in the Philippines. Young men, they look like kids. They are ministerial interns, and they did our PA for us. Everybody wanted their picture made with you. I think we were doing actions to a song there. 5,000. This little girl, back up. Tell them about Michelle.
Michelle is in the red and white plaid shirt. And several times during the meeting, she'd come up and ask me for my phone number, and I'd give it to her, but I don't know what happened to it. It got lost. But the last night we were there, she came up and asked me to write it down again for her. And she has kept in contact with me through WhatsApp. And I usually hear from her every few weeks. And a couple weeks ago was my birthday, and she WhatsApped me happy birthday in 5 different languages on my birthday.
And she's 8 years old. The languages were Malaysian, English, Chinese, Russian, and
French and German.
Oh, French and German.
Another group.
Okay. Who, who said, oh, durian? Do you want to talk about it?
I really wanted to try durian when I was there, but it was not in season. And where I was, they couldn't find any. Apparently they had it in the big city, but I'll have to go back and try it another time.
And Pastor Mike told us that if we eat it, it's kind of like eating garlic. It kind of comes out your pores for the next 24 hours. And when we found this, we were getting on a plane, and we decided maybe the people sitting next to us would not be happy, so we did not try it either.
And more cat statue things for Jill. Oh, Jill.
This was my favorite. It is deep fried bananas with sweetened condensed milk and white cheddar cheese. I never thought I would like cheddar cheese with any of my desserts, but oh my goodness, it rolls your eyes back in your head.
Same place.
Same place. So the tricolored are, it's called a unicorn stack, and they take rice flour, and one of them has spinach, beets, and carrots. Doesn't taste like that. And then you dip it in a sauce for your bread. And then the brownish thing is a naan bread with chocolate sauce. Yes, it was all delicious.
Have you ever seen a Seventh-day Adventist cemetery? There is one. You have who's seen one around here? There is one in Coeur d'Alene?
Wow.
Oh, I'm behind on time. But we saw this, and I said, oh, I've got to get a picture of that. So one day, Yvonne took us back so we could get a picture.
And that's where we thought we were going to get malaria. Because they bury people in the ground, but they are in concrete vaults. The vault comes up, and then they put concrete slats across the top, but the water from the rain, which pretty much rains every day, goes down into the thing, and the mosquitoes just breed, and came back with lots and lots of mosquito bites from there. So, hot tip, if you ever go visit there and go to a cemetery, wear your mosquito repellent.
See this man in the blue shirt? I do not know his name, but he's in my prayers. Heard the story about him. He was a Seventh-day Adventist pastor. Note the verb was. He met this woman, married her. I don't know if he left the church, but he left the ministry. And he came in every night with his 2 little girls, and another one you'll see him. The parents seemed to enjoy the crafts as much or more than the kids did. But he came in every night and brought those little girls. And I would ask that you with me pray for this man, that he will come back into the ministry, and that his wife will come with him.
Holy Week wreath. It's the craft.
This is Yvonne and her husband. He was there every night.
And Zarin, she helped with the registration and everything else. Kids are, he is risen craft. You know, it was amazing that we planned for a certain number of things to do for the kids, and then when we got there and found out we had 2 more programs to do than we knew about, and that we were expecting 200 to 300 kids at those programs, that God had just sent enough that we had leftovers from certain crafts earlier in the week that we gave to the kids who hadn't been there, and we had new crafts for the kids who had been there. And this is one that we really didn't know why we were taking, but it was available and Mom had bought it, and God knew we were going to need it. Pictures of Jesus.
I don't know if any of you know Pastor John McIntosh, that was one of the pastors at PUC for a while. He worked for my husband and my husband's boss, Paul DiMaso, and did a felt industry, and he drew this picture of Jesus. It's one of my favorites. And I asked him, I said, John, when I go on mission trips, may I use that picture? I have used it on the front of my youth mission shirts one year when we went through Yellowstone and everybody looked at our shirts. And I use it now as a picture, and each child gets it to take home. I don't know how I found out, but how did I find out that you signed? One day we were singing it or something?
Jesus loves me.
But
Yeah, I don't know. Every time I hear Jesus loves me, I kind of just start signing.
And she's my daughter. Did she have a choice? No. I said, Jill, you're going to teach them how to sing Jesus Loves Me in sign language. And they did fantastic. Matter of fact, they went down and did it for the adults on the last Sabbath we were there. This is Friday night, the night we had 135. Mike came to tell us a story on Sabbath. That's Jill up in front of the adults leading their song. We didn't send all the kids up there. This was the night we had 197. We have mats on the floor for the parents and the kids or little ones. And God was good to me. You know, I was in that wreck and I have trouble thinking. And a lot of times there'll be words that I can't remember. And I thought, if these little ones are running around my feet, I am going to lose all my powers of concentration and won't even be able to talk. That didn't happen. God took over. Oh, I look almost mad there, right? This was the song we were doing. Now, who was in Vacation Bible School here? You know this song. Can I get you to stand up and sing it with me?
I don't remember that.
You don't remember. It goes like this. What's the name of it? I got to look closer at the name. Oh, it goes like this before I die. When I remember that he died for me, I'll never go back anymore. Hallelujah. When I remember that he died for me, I'll never go back anymore. No, no, never, never, no way. And that's where I was.
The crowns. That was another craft, was the crowns. Stained glass windows of the cross.
This was a new one. It's Jesus and the 12 disciples. We didn't quite teach them the song of there were 12 disciples, but they can take them home. The names were under things. That was the last night when we were finished. Do you see much there? No. We had, wait a minute. We had vultures that came through. Yvonne had told them that what was left could be divided up to the people in the different churches. And there was nothing left. It was gone. Baptism Sabbath. 4 tents, 4 swimming pools in each one, and they baptized 480 people. I think this was one of your pictures, Lauren. It was obvious I was trying to take pictures, and we took it out, didn't we?
Yeah.
They were baptizing some Muslim people, and it would have been very, very detrimental if somehow those pictures got out. So we took them out. That's the one where I wore the white. Saturday night, and Lauren had gotten back with us. I'm in the middle, and then there's Mike, and then there's Lauren. And Jill, where were you?
I'm next
on,
to you.
on the other side of me. But that was another very, very good meal. They went to a restaurant, and these were all the helpers that had been involved. My favorite picture of Lauren and Jill, and you probably can't see it, but tell what goes up to that, both of you.
That's the shuttle.
I have another picture of it too.
Do you want to do it then or now? Let me tell you, the shuttle ride around the Kuala Lumpur airport, Disneyland, Six Flags Mountain, Magic Mountain, Silverwood, they have nothing on this shuttle ride. You were hanging on for dear life as you went around corners. And when you've got all your luggage at your feet and you've got one hand to hold on, it gets quite interesting. My eyes in that picture, I don't know how many you can see, but they're like this because I didn't know what was coming next.
I have a picture in my slides coming up that shows the other direction, and we were surrounded by bags. Most of them have wheels now, as you know. So every turn, there's 50-pound bags going back and forth across the floor.
This is another one of our special hotels. Sama Sama. I don't know what that means. What?
Kind of like
Same thing. A 5-star. I don't know what the bill was here, but the one where we stayed 12 different nights. Back up, don't go past. The one where we first stayed, where we stayed 12 nights, and we had a humongous buffet every morning. The buffet room was bigger than the church here, right? I asked them, one of the cooks, how many eggs do you serve a day? And they said, every breakfast we go through 500 or 600 eggs. They had all kinds of fruits and everything in there.
and rice.
Yes, always rice. But that hotel, for the 12 nights and all the breakfasts, cost just over $500.
For two
For
of us.
two of us. And this one, how much was it?
It was more like 75 American.
For the two of us. But it was a beautiful place. You saw the flowers that you, this little pond and the waterfalls and all is inside that hotel. I fed that turtle. And then last night my son said, Mom, that was a snapping turtle. I said, well, it sort of snapped at me. And this, Jill and Lauren just are horribly beat. I probably was too, but I had the camera out. We were there for 2 hours at least, weren't we? Waiting in lines.
We got there well ahead of the 2-hour minimum and barely made it.
And that's leaving. Now we look at Lauren's slides. Oh, no. Poor Lauren. Not only did we get him out of his comfort zone, but he got COVID. And this is him in the Tokyo airport on our way back. He was spent. Oh, that's Jill and myself with
Michelle, my
Michelle, the little girl. There.
Okay. I'm going to hand this over to you. We're going to switch the slideshows now. Some of Lauren's pictures from his.
I don't have quite as many. I only did probably a quarter of the pictures that I took, and there's a few duplicates that I'll go through quickly. But Judy asked, how did we end up over there? I had felt impressed that I needed to go on a foreign mission trip for several years and had agreed to go to the Philippines, and then COVID got rid of that plan. I think that was also with Adventist World Radio, if I remember right. So I just stayed in touch with Tim, and when we heard about this potential trip to Borneo, I was definitely interested because of the history of my family being there. My dad's here right now, and he had been in Borneo as a young person, but his dad, my grandpa, was mission president in Sabah, which is the state next to where we were. We were in Sarawak. And then I mentioned earlier, my great-grandpa had helped build the school there in Sarawak, in Kuching. The Aramanis School, I believe, is the one that he actually helped build. And I did not get to see that one, but...
So he has to go back.
So, yeah, my great-grandma is buried in Jesselton, which is in Sabah, correct? So, all right, this is my picture of Spokane Airport, early morning, getting ready to leave. Probably right before Judy started talking to the pilot. I actually am not positive which, I think this might have been coming into Kuching. And this was from my hotel room in that area.
Which floor were you on, Lauren?
Well, I was there at the beginning, at the end, and I don't remember. One of them was 16th or 18th floor. So I'm not sure which picture this is, but
So
we
that's
arrived.
a 20-story hotel.
We arrived on Tuesday, is that correct? I think we went over 30 hours. I went over 30 hours without sleep. I cannot sleep on an airplane. So that really knocks you out. And then the 15-hour time difference, I could not get used to it, but thankfully we had gone early. So we arrived on Tuesday, and I didn't have to speak until Friday evening.
But we kept looking at each other and saying, what day is it? What
It was
day is
very
it?
confusing.
You'd lose a day.
And you got 3 different answers as to what day it was in Tokyo.
This, Judy already talked about this, the Adventist Mission Headquarters, and you saw that picture. This was in the elementary side of the school. It was, the main building there was 4 stories. I think that's where the high school age kids were. And that's the Sunny Hill Adventist School. And because at the time I thought that this was the one that my great-grandpa had been involved in, the principal of the whole thing over the whole school, before we left at the end of our journey there, she got to me a copy of the 75th anniversary, kind of like a yearbook thing, but it had letters from previous graduates and everything, the celebration of the 75th anniversary of this school. And that was quite a few years ago. Do you remember? Year 2000. The year 2000. So the 100th is coming up in 2025, 100 years. And they had over 1,000 students when we were there. So a lot of people being reached. Okay, we'll see if this video, this is a video of George before he unleashed on the unsuspecting hikers. I actually heard people say they had been waiting all day. I don't know if you heard that. They had come in the morning and waited for hours, left and got some food, came back and still waited. So we were very blessed to walk right up to when he was there. You already saw that. There's Mike Lambert and the rest of our crew, Yvonne and Judy and Jill and Pastor Andrew. You already saw that meal. Some of the greens they eat a lot of different local ferns and different greens. Couldn't give you the name of them, but they were delicious. Does anyone know what that is? Rambutan, yes. They're green, but not ready to eat. That's the view from walking the plank. So this is one of the different styles of longhouse. The locals lived in these longhouses, and I'll have a picture coming up here. That's people currently living. But this is one at the cultural village. And there was a picture on the wall here of, well, he's now King Charles and Camilla. A few years ago, they had visited here, and there's a picture of them looking in this building right here. That one was way up on stilts. There's Mike Lambert getting some instructions on the blowgun. So this is one of my translators, Pastor Justin, and either this pastor or Pastor Sabone would pick me up at my hotel in Syrian every evening, and it was about a 45-minute drive towards the border of Indonesia, up into the jungles. The first Sabbath that I was there, so I started on Friday evening, and then for Sabbath morning, they brought me to this church in the city of Syrian, so it was close to my hotel. And I'd had a feeling that this might happen, and they asked me to preach. So thankfully, I had brought some materials and kind of edited it down. Actually, they didn't have a translator for me here. They said, just speak slowly, and most people at this particular church speak English, which was not the case where I was doing the evening meetings. This is out of my hotel window up in Syrian, and most people get around on these little underpowered motorbikes. So this is a family of 4 out grocery shopping. This is at the border of Indonesia. A couple of the guards there are Adventist. And so my translator drove me up to the border, right? They had actually just closed, but he opened it back up and let me step over into Indonesia and take a picture.
Is the flag of Indonesia there?
No, the one with the blue and red, I think, is the Malaysia flag. And then this is the state of Sarawak, the one on your left. These were the young people that were preparing for baptism at my site. They often had, well, every night they had multiple special musics, and it was often a local choir. So this is one of the ladies' choirs from one of the churches. There were 3 districts, I guess you would call them, involved in my location. So 3 pastors, each with 6 churches, so 18 churches. And they were busing people, well, they would cram into little minivans and things. Let's see. Oh, that's the picture you already saw. That was my hotel in Syrian. And one of the pastors liked to take me around to all their little churches. So there's a bunch of these. Oh, that was out of order. This is a giant durian statue, whatever you want to call it, in front of my hotel. What's that? Does anyone know? What is it? Okay. I never could get the actual name that they used there, but it was a delicious fruit. This is, what's the sport? Okay. There should be sound as well, but it's not critical. But watch at the very end here, right about now. They literally do a backflip and kick the ball over the net. I think it must have been in the hotels or somewhere. I saw that there's actually professional people go on tour playing that professionally. I have at home somewhere a rattan ball. That's what it's used to be back when I was a kid overseas. This was an older couple that, I think that's Pastor Sabone, my other translator. And he just stopped and was talking to former church members. Another one of their little churches. And when I say little, I mean literally. As you can see, I would not be able to walk under the entrance there. I felt like a giant most of the time over there. This is one of the pastors in one of his 3 churches. Pastor Sabone had me over for a meal along with Pastor Justin, and this was their papaya tree in their yard. There's the two pastors that translated for me, and they're both married. They both have children. I guess I met one of their sons, but that's it. Lots of little churches. Along the road between the hotel and where I spoke, there were often these tiny little garden plots with a variety of things. Pineapple plots, bananas, there were beans, like pole beans, and they would just grow their own little gardens and then sell the produce. Also, I don't know if I have any pictures in here or not, but the whole area was full of palm oil trees. And there's a lot of money in that, apparently. The one pastor was telling me, I mean, I can't remember how it translated to US dollars, but someone that has palm oil trees is generally pretty wealthy. So this is a more modernized longhouse, and it's like a bunch of separate dwelling spaces all connected for a very long distance. And there were, Pastor Sabone grew up in this exact longhouse, so it's been there a very long time, but they had replaced the bamboo floor with a local hardwood. But then they took me to a more traditional longhouse, and this is how you get in and out. It's built up off the ground. They just carve out a log, and then the floor is made with bamboo slats. And there were people living here still as well. There was a monkey living underneath. I don't think you can tell in this picture, but he was chained under there. Poor guy. And some chickens for eggs, I guess. This was another border, with unguarded border to Indonesia. I think at the other end, if you go over the hill, there was probably a guard station. The only time I saw Tim, the whole time I was there, because I had left Friday to go to my site, he came by my hotel. They invited me to go out to a meal, but I had just eaten and I had to prepare for that evening. But this was Pastor Andrew on the right, and then the other two, do you recognize them? I think the one in yellow is, who is it? Do you know what his position is, or? President of the Union, okay.
That's the man that I had in mind, and I think I knew him in Philippines, Gavin.
I'm not very good at remembering names, but there were a lot of union and division people that visited my site while I was speaking, and especially the last Friday evening, they gave a bunch of gifts. So I had a good probably 5 or 10 minutes with Tim before they headed out. He was doing well. This was another local church. These gentlemen were getting ready. It was on Wednesday evening. And for those that weren't able to make it to my meeting, they were still having prayer meeting there. The sound was really bad from the PA this night. So I'm not sure I'll play this, but I attempted to learn the language a little bit.
Sembu
have to ask Huling if I was close. Anyway, I think when you make an effort, I think they appreciate it. But this was back in Syrian, where the hotel was, the local hospital. And this was a Chinese, I don't know if it was a temple or actually a restaurant or both, in the town of Syrian. And then if you were hungry, you could go down the street a little bit to the 666 Cafe. I had to get a picture of that sign. I ate quite a bit of local fruit, star fruit, and those are tiny little bananas, but they're incredibly flavorful. Doesn't taste anything like what we get here. That's been shipped green and gassed and who knows what else. This was a papaya off of my translator's tree. Delicious. I did not join the Freemasons. This is an outfit that they presented to me my last evening, Friday evening, the second Friday evening. I don't remember the significance of it, but it's just a local garb. And I actually preached my whole last sermon there Friday night wearing this. But this was our theme song for the week. I guess you all recognize that. We have this hope. And this was not all of them, but some of the baptismal candidates Friday evening with, I think there's, a couple guys from the local mission, I believe. And so they went down on Sabbath morning to join. We all went back to Kuching for the final church service and the baptism. So this is Sabbath morning. Pastor Lambert gave some words with his translator. Want to see? Maybe we'll just watch a few minutes of the start here. This was the special music that the children did with Jill and Judy.
Jill and Judy. Jill and Judy.
This is, I believe, the mission, or division president over all of, what's the division? What is it? Southern Asia. Sorry, again, I'm bad with names, but he preached a good sermon Sabbath morning. And then we had the baptism. There was obviously hundreds of people out there. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, it took over an hour to get all 484 people baptized.
With 4 in each, no, yeah, 4 in each pool and 4 pools. If you look closely in the center there,
It is now our privilege to baptize you in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost.
oops. I'll skip that. This was Pastor Justin, one of my translators, and he was one of the ones baptizing for the whole time. I believe this is one of the young ladies from the site that I was at. And another one. It was a very powerful experience to be a part of. This was at that final dinner that we had with everyone that had been involved in putting on the meetings. They just kept bringing course after course after course of delicious food. This is the palm oil trees that were everywhere. There's my picture of that infamous trolley ride. Yeah, Judy's in the back there. This was catching a ride either to or from the Kuala Lumpur one, right?
Yes, almost.
A hotel. It was literally connected by this to the airport. It's very convenient. Is that my last one? Oh, that's the inside of that hotel. I actually went for a swim that evening. We stayed overnight there and then flew out first thing in the morning through Tokyo again. There's Judy feeding the fish, the koi, and the turtles. There were a lot of workers that had the different head coverings and things there. And this is that final group picture on the Saturday night, last night there. And then on the flight, getting ready to head back, this probably was in Kuala Lumpur, I'm guessing. So this was before being up for another 30-something hours. I actually didn't get sick until we got home, but being, lack of sleep and around and coughing people in a metal tube for 30-something hours, it was a challenge. I think that's the last picture, but from my perspective, it was a life-changing experience. It was a great blessing. I'm glad that I decided to go, and I was definitely out of my comfort zone, not because of Judy. I felt, unworthy of what I was being called to do, but I could definitely sense the prayers of everyone here that was praying, and the Holy Spirit gave power, and every single night when I got up, I had no nerves whatsoever. I just spoke freely, and it worked well with the translators, and I hope that people were blessed, and also felt a connection to the 4 previous generations of Munsons who have gone as missionaries to the Far East and to that area. So it was a blessing to be able to go there, and we'll see what the Lord has in store for the future.
And I would just encourage all of you to take a life-changing event like this. You know, I have never worked with groups of kids before. The closest I have come is maybe helping in a Sabbath school, a small event. Nothing like having 95 kids surround you and half of them asking you for your picture. But I just feel like a connection to the people. When I left, I cried. And I hope to go back. And we're waiting to find out if Indonesia is a possibility for next year. And I'm thinking if we go, maybe, you know, Malaysia's just a hop, skip, and a jump when you're already over that close, right? So maybe I will get to see my friends there again. And if not, in heaven.
And my last words are, you go over there thinking, oh, we're going to be such a blessing to them. Maybe. But you are tremendously blessed. You never forget these experiences. It draws you closer to Christ. And that's what we all want, so that we can meet all these friends we've made all over the world. So thank you for coming.
I do have one more thing, believe it or not. I also have been communicating through WhatsApp with the two pastors and one of the elders that were at my site. And I messaged the three of them last night and just wished them Salamat Sabbat. And they responded when they got out of church Sabbath, which was early this morning here. One of them sent me pictures of a church dedication. They had just dedicated another church building there. The other one sent a picture of his church service. And then I said, I told him I was going to do this. We were doing this presentation this afternoon. And he said, wow, that's awesome. Hope the presentation you share will inspire many of your church members to do evangelism even more. So that was the message from Pastor Justin this morning. Go ahead.
So, again, thank you for coming. It's nice to be able to share something that is near and dear to your heart with other people. And who knows, maybe next year you'll be showing us something that you did. I hope so.
Shall we pray? Father in heaven, thank you for the amazing opportunity we had to go to Sarawak and participate in this series of meetings. I want to pray that you would bless the people that we met there and the work that the pastors are doing and the lay people. I pray that you would inspire us here in the Newport area to every day be open to your leading and guiding in our lives. Give us courage and the words to speak to others when we have the opportunity to share. With world events the way they are, many people are very open right now. So give us holy boldness to spread the three angels' messages and to point people to Jesus. Pray that you would bless each family that's represented here today and help us all to be together in heaven along with our brothers and sisters from other countries. Pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Just one more thing. I think God put it in my mind. I don't know if you were in church Sabbath today, but we mentioned that Angelica, Dr. Krause from our church, who has a mission trip in Peru right now, Lisa Malakowski and Becky Anderson, Pastor Jim's wife, are suffering quite a bit from altitude sickness. They only have about 16 to 18 people there, and to take 2 people out, not have them be able to do things, really hurts the trip. Lisa and Becky were both involved in cooking. Pray that those ladies will get well quickly. They're at 12,000 feet, and they'll be building there at 12,000 feet for the rest of the week. So lift them up in your prayers.